Here we go. Here we go. We live. We live. We live right now. Today is Sunday, April 21st. We're doing pretty good right now. Woke up early, 7 o'clock. So usually from my Google, not maps, from my Google calendar, tells me that I'm actually supposed to be doing a podcast at this time. I put it on the calendar, start putting things on the calendar. It's been a long time since I've done that. And that's what you got to do to make sure that things stick. But this is here. This is here to stay. I have no problems doing my podcast. It's not a chore or waste of time. Sometimes I do more, as you've noticed during the week. I've not done that in the past week or so. I've just been busy with YouTube. Not Amazon. Amazon still looks the same, but, again, once it will get done. It will get figured out. But I'm turning myself to YouTube, and it's been going pretty good. A lot of lessons learned, playing around with the camera. She's over there, so another camera's coming soon. But it's been a lot of fun to just see where things are. I do need to play around with the settings a little bit more, because that's where I will learn really mostly everything I need to do. But I can keep it as basic as possible. But one thing I am noticing is that I would need a lot more space. I did a 10-minute video yesterday. I was going to do that today, but I was like, no, I just want to talk and spit without the camera stuff to interfere with, to try to get that to work. But got my train of thought. But yeah, I was yeah. But yeah, I did a 10-minute talk, which I'll talk about more after this, is that and I recorded it on the camera, new camera, 4K and all that good stuff. Super duper crazy high resolution. And I just wanted to see how big of the file it was. For 10 minutes, really less than 10 minutes, 9 minutes, but whatever. Let's count it up a little bit. It was 3 gigs. So imagine if I did a talking head video or podcast for 30 minutes. That'll be close to 10 gigs of space. And then start talking about editing any of that stuff, which I probably won't edit much of it. Probably color correct. But that's about it, really. But yeah, 10 minutes. I mean, 10 gigs. Wow. That's crazy, right? So I will start to slowly look into space. I do have enough space on the 2 drives that I do use. They're still pretty big, like 7-8 terabytes, but I will go ahead and start looking into getting the big boys, the 15. Hopefully, we'll see what they got out there. The ones that are designed to just stay on. Hopefully, they're a little bit quieter than the ones I have right now. But yeah, so that's what we got going. It's interesting, kind of just playing around with that stuff, figuring things out, and seeing how things are. Especially like the non-sexy things, the things like the kitchen. Kitchen's always going to be sexy. That's what you see. That's what you interact with. But like, even the floor is pretty cool, because that's what you see all the time, and that's what you step on, in renovations and stuff, right? But like the roof, a siding, hole in the wall, which I have a couple because of the kids. Gardening sometimes to an extent. Those are not the cool things to do, but you have to. And it's kind of the same way in this whole like audio, video, production, media type of things, right? And in this case, yeah, the cameras are cool, the lenses and all that stuff. You can talk and record. Even the interfaces are relatively cool, right? But here's the thing: storage is not cool. It's not cool. It's extremely important, especially when you start to do things and you need more space to expand and to deliver what you need to, right? So yeah, so that's kind of like what we're thinking about doing and all that good stuff. But yeah, that's what I'm thinking about, trying to figure out. I'm even thinking about trying to see if I can figure out to. It's the subwoofer. The subwoofer is just here, and I may look into getting some basic, small but effective studio monitors that I can use for listening, but also to hear back, and takes up probably a relatively smaller footprint. It's really just the subwoofer. The subwoofer's nice, but again, I'm just getting into the weeds of perfection, trying to figure things out and see how it all works, right? So yeah, so that's what we've been up to. And wow, this is interesting. I'm hearing myself in the headphones, and it's not tearing me off. It's not like ah. So that's a good thing, right? I'm slowly getting used to hearing myself. I'm not put off. I was telling my wife earlier that she has the most sexiest, awesomest voice. It's so cool. And she pronounces words correctly. She pauses. She knows exactly what to do. It's quite amazing. I'm not jealous at all. It's just quite amazing when you know somebody that has that gift, that natural gift of whatever it may be. And she doesn't really even see it, which is, it's just funny, right? But yeah, so that's what we got going today. I did all my uploads and finished up my videos and all that stuff. And I think I'm starting to find my voice, especially with the thumbnails, trying to get that down. And I think ChatGPT or Claude is going to help out quite a bit, because a lot of times people think about these AI tools like they're going to take over, or they can tell when people are using them, which is fine. I use them from time to time. I'm not going to lie. It helps with my summary. But I use it to the point of like not even so much of an assistant. It's like a brainstorming type of buddy. Like, for instance, I was really in a rut the other day because I finished everything. I finished the video, did all the cool things to the video of what I know how to do right now, which is really cool. And I didn't have a thumbnail. Didn't even think of thumbnail. I mean, I thought about it, but I didn't know really what it was going to be. I kind of had an idea what I wanted to write about or talk about or whatnot, right? And I just couldn't really get anything with real drive or focus. And, I just barely got my new camera, sold all the other stuff mostly. And I wonder if I needed to get a trigger, but it's cool. This cool app that you can just take pictures from your phone. So that's my trigger. But again, I still had no idea or concept of the actual video. And I just went on ChatGPT and I asked. I was like, okay, this is what I already did for the blog. I mean, for the YouTube post. This is the concept. This is the idea. Could you give me 10 thumbnail ideas? And then it did, right? And some of them were okay. Some of them were whatever it was. But then, since it does have Dolly, I was like, okay, I need you to create each of these all at once. He said, no, I'm not doing that, dude. Which is fine. There's limitations, but all I did was tell it, okay, create image number 1 with your descriptions that you gave me, and then so on and so forth. And then I told it to create another 10. And then some of them were more so the same, but some of the ones that I did like, I did bring up, and I thought about it of how I was going to actually create it, you know, actually not using the thumbnail that it did create, right? Because I'm still a very creative person, so I still got to understand that this is what I want to do. This is what I'm thinking about. But it gave me a sense of direction, a sense of understanding of what I was trying to do, right? So that's what happened. That's what I did, and I made the image, and I made 2 or 3 more images, took some more pictures, and I was good to go. But then yesterday, I went ahead and started playing around with the thumbnail using Canva, which I used to hate, but it's a great tool. It really is. I think I'm part of my neighbor's plan right now, but if and whenever he kicks me off, I will just pay for it. I mean, I'm trying to cut down on subscriptions that I pay for. But the cool thing is I actually use these subscriptions, but still, to be mindful of that, probably just try to use a free version whenever that does happen. And I'm getting an understanding of using thumbnails, pictures, how things work. And it's a pretty good thing. It's a pretty good thing to kind of really delve out there and see what I can do. And I'm naturally, like I talked about in last post or last video or episode, is that I'm generally liking the journey, and it's pretty cool. Yes, there's frustration in it from time to time, like figuring out this audio for this podcast stuff, but it's fine. It's as I do this, I get better, and as I get better, it becomes more fun because I'm understanding more, and I can be more creative as I delve into the things that I want to do. Right. So right now we are drinking this dark roast. I think it's a mix. Honduras, Sumatran, and something else. I'm probably Mexican. Can't remember. But I'm playing around with different, mixes and stuff like that. Playing around with a lot of dark roasts. Doing it at 200 degrees, 204 degrees, and it's been working out pretty good. I think dark roast is a lot easier to get that sweetness, finding the sweetness in the cup. But I am thinking that I am finding it a lot more when I'm doing this. Like the Bonavita, like holding it for like a minute or two, and then releasing it. And I like the Bonavita a lot. They don't make it anymore, so I don't think you can really get it. So if you're looking for it, I don't know where to tell you to go. Probably eBay. So yeah, it's easier to find sweetness. I wouldn't say chasing, it's finding, trying to find it. And it's been going pretty good, and it's been easy to find, at least in this case. And what I'm noticing is that in this coffee mixture, this concoction, is that it's mostly sweet. It actually presents itself sweet, and there's no real acidity. And that could be the form of the dark roast, but with dark roast, a lot of times you get the bitterness, and that's not the acidity. And I wish it did have a little bit more acidity on it, but it doesn't. So I don't say like 80% sweetness. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to kind of have fun with that, play around with that. And then I have another YouTube video that I'm thinking about doing today, so I can work on my master plan of getting YouTube videos out, repurposing them for the whole month. And I think it will actually allow me to to post more on YouTube, because right now I'm doing once a week on Sunday at like at 9 or 8:30. So it should go up automatically on itself, and then have some shorts of that go up. I think I got like 8 new subscribers, which is cool, but they're still not listening to a lot of the stuff. It's not so much really about the watch times and all that stuff that people are talking about. It's about how useful, effective is the stuff to people. But that's cool. I think it'll get there. I'm not really looking to the stats as much, just because I'm still starting. This is still new to me, and I'm understanding how to cut things out, what to talk about, and being really comfortable in front of the camera, pronouncing my words and all that stuff. Like this podcast, I think I'm pretty good, right? I don't know. I can talk to myself for at least 20 minutes. So, and I could just keep going. And I think I think it is true. Like scripts do get a bad name, at least for me, is that you're like literally rehearsing everything. And that's not my style. I'm more of an outline type of person. So if I have a couple bullet points, then I can talk. And I think that helps because it's easier to go from that and to really understand what I'm doing. And then eventually it will just start to flow out. Just like these podcasts, and they keep getting better. It's like 73, 74, which I'm really proud of myself. Almost at 100. And I said I was going to get something when I was at 100, but I think I'm going to keep it going because I've got other stuff first. And I think eventually I do want to start to work on my on-site podcasting stuff. So I have this mic. I'll get another mic, probably another mic for the road. Play around with that setup. Probably play around in the garage a little bit with what I'm thinking about. I do made a little makeshift podcast little thingy. And it's going to be quite interesting how to see how you can get this to work. But I think with my thoughts and stuff, I think it'll get there. Oh yeah, I think I have that other one too. But it's going to be what it is, right? And as I get better and understand what I'm trying to do, things are going to be looking the way they need to. I can also video record. I'll probably I don't think I'll use 3 cameras going into it. I'll probably just use 2. Use the iPhone as a B-roll camera. And then the other one, whichever it may be, one of the Sonys, as a main camera and all that stuff. But yeah, so I think that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm going to figure out. And as we keep going, we're going to get better, right? So how are we going to do? Keep getting better. And then somebody else that I listen to, his name is Hines. He's actually on, has a YouTube stuff and all that. It was interesting because he was talking about some stuff, right? And my wife saw it when she came in. She started watching it a little bit. She said, "No, that's not true. Build it if you come." But I think she kind of missed a little bit of context of what he's talking about. And what he was really trying to say, I think, is that, networking events, which is true, they don't really work. Nobody really cares for them. But if you're like excellent, if you're like amazing, you're just doing your thing in your craft, figuring things out, all that good stuff, right? Eventually, people will see you. I mean, of course, you have to broadcast it to an extent, right? But people will see that, whoa, that person's pretty cool. It's a little different. I see what he's trying to do here. So if you're awesome and you're great and you're broadcasting it, your phones will start to read out the door, right? And as you do that, you'll get better. So it's like almost to the point to where you have to prove to yourself that you're great, that you're getting better, that you're not limiting yourself, that you're trying to do things in a way to where that organic or natural way of people finding who you are and what you're trying to do is going to happen. It's going to happen automatically, right? And I think that's the point that he was really trying to get at. So, I mean, yeah, people are still going to be crappy and stuff like that. And that's perfectly fine. But, it gets to the point to where as long as you are constantly out there and doing your thing and presenting yourself, I think that's going to be a very important thing to do. So I'm not trying to get anybody off that needs to get off, but this is 20 minutes in and I'm not done, which is crazy because I got an actual topic to talk about. And I have a question from a friend about coffee. And I will talk about that soon. But let's talk about the topic. Yesterday I wanted a ribeye. So I pulled it out of my freezer, put it on some water, defrost it, put some salt on it, let it do its thing for like 4 or 5 hours. Then I put it on a charcoal grill, Weber kettle to be exact. I seared it first, traditional sear, and then I let it cook on low temp. Absolutely delicious. I think the last time I had ribeye was a couple of weeks before that. And the reason why I keep bringing up ribeye is because I bought it when it was extremely cheap, especially for ribeye. Yes, it still was like select or choice in some cases, depending on which store I went to. And sometimes they mislabel because you can kind of look at the meat itself. You can see how marbled it is or how not it is or where they're going to actually cut the roast. All this stuff. It's just fascinating to me how you can really learn and understand things when you delve into it, just like I'm talking about right now with this podcast, right? So I think ribeye's counterpart in coffee is a Brazilian or easygoing coffee. Okay, I know people who knows about ribeyes and knows about coffee. Probably not too many people if they really look at it that way. But why does somebody say that? Why do I say that? In particular, I think I say that is because it's more than anything. It's just a versatility thing. The thing about ribeye is that it used to not be my favorite cut. I wouldn't say it's still not my favorite cut. I do love brisket, but if you think about it, brisket is very one-dimensional. You have to get it to a certain tenderness, right? And it's not possible. Hey, good morning. That's my son. It's not possible to get it there until you get it to a higher temperature and time and all that good stuff and tenderness, right? And it's delicious. It really is delicious. You can't have too much of it all the time, as I'm starting to realize now, as I'm like understanding barbecue and meats and all that, and just how heavy smoke can be, especially now that I don't smoke as much as I did last year, especially getting the offset smoker. But brisket it's kind of one-dimensional. You have to cook it a certain way, that way all the time. I think pork belly is a little bit more forgiving. You can do things differently. But ribeye is a piece of meat that everybody loves. The king of beef, the king of steak, the king of everything. And I didn't really understand that until I got so many ribeye roast during Christmas and Thanksgiving break. And I still have so many because, I bagged it up, sous vide it in the bags, vacuum sealed it, and I can just pull out whichever one I want to. And at first, it was all about, all right, here's a steak, put it in a pan, do some butter tricks, probably sous vide it from time to time, just stuff like that. And it got to the point where I got tired of that. And I think one time I saw somebody make steak sandwich. So I went ahead and made a steak sandwich out of the ribeye. It was absolutely delicious, amazing, completely transformed the way I thought about ribeye because it's versatile. You can do whatever, anything that you want to do. I wouldn't take it too crazy high. It's quick. You can quickly make it too. If you want to, you don't have to do a sous vide. Sous vide takes, an hour or two. You talk to Guga. but but yeah, it was extremely versatile. And then I just took it out one day, a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, I just want a big bowl of rice and some meat and some veggies. That's it. Perfect bodybuilders, but I think everybody loves a meal like that. Throw some like sriracha mayonnaise on it. Whatever. It doesn't matter. It's just that's the meal that I wanted. But I didn't know what to use. I didn't want to use ground meat. So what I did is I cut up ribeye in small pieces. I marinated it or just put it on salt for a couple hours. I think marinades are kind of bullshit, but that's another story for another day. If I want to get off tangent on something. And I cut it up, put it in the pan, took it off at the right time, put it on my rice, veggies. Absolutely delicious. Amazing. It was so very good. It was something that I started to understand the awesomeness, the uniqueness of a ribeye, how versatile it is and how tender it is and how forgiving it is and how even at the lowest grade quality, it's still fantastic. And then I start thinking about coffee. What is that? What is the ribeye of coffee? And I think that's Brazilian. Brazilian coffee or coffees like it. Brazilian coffee is one of the cheapest coffees in the world because Brazil produces the most coffee. They have so much of it. The climate and everything is perfect for coffee, especially this natural type of whatever it may be coffee that they produce. And it's a lot, right? And I didn't care for Brazilian coffee as I didn't care for ribeye. And after time, I started to understand and appreciate Brazilian coffee. Not just because it was cheap for me and I can make a decent profit from it. From others, is that it was a crowd pleaser. It was a coffee that people loved and enjoyed and always wanted more of. And no matter how many times I tried to tell them or get them to try to test something out differently, that was like an African coffee. The African coffees at times were like the brisket. It can be very one dimensional. Somebody may think it's kind of interesting, but they won't come back to it. They'll think it's okay. This is cool. This is interesting about coffee. I didn't know coffee can taste like this, but I want that Brazilian. I want that morning yak. I want that good stuff. I want that Brazilian. And again, like I said, talk about Brazilian, especially when I use, it doesn't really matter. I did have some high-end doTERRA Brazilian coffee. To me, they kind of, yes, you can notice the difference, especially in the smell. And sometimes it did have a different flavor to it, but it was still more like a chocolatey, nutty notes. And I don't think you can get as complex with that, right? But it's just what it is, right? And that's one thing I've noticed with this Brazilian. This Brazilian is so forgiving. You can roast it light, medium, and dark. The light and medium are more so the same. You may get a little bit more acidity in it in the light roast, but it's still well developed. Takes well with creamer. Takes well as espresso. A lot of times people use Brazilian as a 50% or whatever it may be as a base for espresso, or they just say, fuck it, let me just use Brazilian coffee as my espresso. And you can drink it black. You can. I I can probably drink it black for like a week, and then after that, I'm done with it. But because it's still one notey, right? It can get one notey, and I know I said that the Ethiopian or Kenyan coffees could be one notey, but one notey and the Kenyan coffee is like more acidic, different types of like actual fruit. That's probably a little bit more off-putting to people. But me drinking my coffee most of the time black, I'll get tired of the Brazilian. I'm not gonna lie. But to others, nah, they won't get tired of that at all. Just keep drinking it. Mixed drinks, coffee drinks, alcohol drinks, whatever. It's a good base, and I think that's what it is. Cold brew is perfect for cold brew, and it's a good base, and that's what it is. It's a coffee that you can kind of do whatever the hell you want to with. It's extremely tasty at times, and for the most part, once you make it, most people are not gonna be put off. Most people will like it. And again, and that's the parallel between the Brazilian and the ribeye. It's like it's versatile. And I think that's the biggest thing, biggest takeaway with this is that when coffee can be versatile and magical, that's where the magic is more than anything. It's not so much that it is actually magical. To an extent, yeah, the ribeye is more so than a Brazilian, but it's magical in a way that it hits more people, that it's more pleasing, that you get your bang for the buck because you can use it for more than one thing. And yeah, I know coffee and meat, steak, yeah, you just put it in your mouth and eat it, right? But at times, as I go through the week and think about meals and stuff to make for the family, a lot of times it's just like, okay, what am I going to do? What am I really going to do here? What I'm going to make? And I look at the kids, I look at the pantry, look at what we made before, what we haven't. You're always constantly like playing this game of like, can I do something a lot better or different than what I made last time? Because everybody gets tired of everything, right? We all get tired of things from time to time. We're human, and that's how things are. But the cool thing about this coffee thing, or Brazilian coffee, or something like it, or ribeye, or something like it that's extremely versatile, is that it's versatility. That's really where the biggest sweet spot of these two things together or separately, and that's pretty cool. That's one of the things I just thought about. I'm like, how I'm not reaching. It may sound like a reach, like I just pulled this out of my butt, but truthfully, that's the thing that we are trying to understand as people, right? How we can find parallels and things that we're trying to grow, to learn, to gravitate to, and to just experience in life, right? So, all right, almost done with this coffee. It is cool now. It is a lot sweeter. It has the bitterness in it, which isn't bad. Um, but yeah, so we're gonna do. I think I kind of got an idea. Kind of want to talk to you about it a little bit about the YouTube video that I'm thinking about doing, finding sweetness, and it's gonna be with the espresso. Dialed it in a little yesterday, kind of figuring that out, but I will kind of more so do that offline and just write about it and journal about it and see what comes to me and see what we can do. Because it's not going to be that long. It's probably going to be 15 minutes. So I cut that down. It's going to be like 6 minutes, perfect time. We'll see. May use the new camera, play around with that, but we'll see. But yeah, so let me get out the question and then we'll conclude this video. This podcast, good stuff. Okay, so here's the question. Because we kind of went back and forth. And I had to think about it, but I wanted more so think about it when we're talking right now. Okay. I guess I wonder why coffee bags usually don't have a rule of thumb of how much coffee beans per cup. Okay. And most of them don't. Some of them do. The ones that I have looked at as competition and stuff like that, some of them do actually have like different brewing styles of what's best for this coffee. And I think that's extremely important to kind of give people that. And I think they don't really have that stuff a lot of times because of laziness. As I was talking to her about this, it's it's one of those things to where it's a lot of work for a roaster or a company to like put the exact information on there. Of course, they put the beans, how awesome and tasty that they put on there, and all that crap. But it's uh, it's one of those things that it's more so like laziness, I believe, because it's a lot of work, truthfully. Because if you think about it, you roast this coffee. After you roast this coffee, you want to work on the bag, you want to present it, market it, blah, 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 blah. And then you kind of give it to somebody because I'm sure it's not like they didn't think about different recipes and an idea of where people can start, right? But especially depending on the customer, but that's still different, you know. That's what I'm talking about right here. I think I talked about this a couple of weeks ago, how after you give the coffee to somebody, it's out of your hands. You don't know how they're going to use it. You don't know if they're going to use it as a mask or face wash. You don't know if they're going to burn it up outside to keep the bugs away. You don't know if they're going to put creamer on the coffee. You don't know which coffee maker they're going to be using it on. You know, or in her case, cold brew. You know, there's no real guide to people, for that coffee. And truthfully, if you think about it, it's actually not that hard for a coffee roasting company to actually figure that out, because we go through, we don't mind gear. Every industry has gear, right? We have refractometers, we have charts and graphs and shit on computers and stuff, and things we follow for profiles. We have cupping protocols, we have charts and all that stuff, right? And if we need it justifiable, we'll just buy it. But a lot of times what it is that these people do cuppings and they figure out what flavors taste like and they move on. But in truth, I think one of the best things, which I'm understanding now, which I'm going to actually start doing, which will be expensive at first, not get all of them, but get a decent amount of coffee makers that people have, right? You know, again, not all of them because they more so do the same thing. But as long as you get some type of prototype or a mascot of what you think that coffee may be, right? I think that's going to be one of the biggest things to take away from all of this, right? To really dial in a recipe, to really dial in of what somebody may be tasting in your coffee, especially a coffee that you're producing to somebody else that wants to, they bought your coffee, right? So they trust you to an extent already. But if you kind of leave them hanging, it's it's almost like you kind of care but don't care because it's too hard to figure that out, right? So so that's interesting. That's very interesting to the point of where you're like, oh, okay. Just open the computer. It's like, oh, okay. How much importance is it really to be a coffee roaster? Because that's part of the game, I think. I think that's part of the situation than anything. is that we are giving the coffee to somebody, but at the end of the day, they still want to be on that journey. Our job is to help them along the journey. And it's just a rule of thumb, as she says, that's all she wants. I mean, let me change it up anyway. But it's a guide. That's all it is. It's a guide. And that's what people want. And I think that's extremely important that I'm trying to really understand. You know, every coffee's different, and that's the beauty of it, especially when you have a mass production of something that you're producing and you know which coffees you're using, how it tastes. You may do a protocol of cupping or tasting, but that's not enough, right? People really want recipes. They want an idea of what they're dealing with. And I think that's going to be, more so my saving grace or an idea that I can implement, of course. And then I think it'll be okay for the most part for others to take what I'm saying as a grain of salt, even if they don't use my coffee. As I start here. I think that's extremely important. Just start here and see what your taste buds are telling you. And as your taste buds are telling you that thing, then you can alter it or change it up in a way that it does fit your liking. Again, we're on the journey together, but separately. But again, it's just like with anything and everything. I know when I first started coffee, especially really, I guess, getting into the part of like trying to do this professionally, I started asking old heads and people who were doing the thing and all that stuff. But yeah, so, and they wouldn't really give me anything, which is fine. And it took me to read and analyze, and some people would help, some wouldn't. And then I'd start to develop my own style and all that good stuff. But I think that's what it is. And kind of like the last question somebody asked me, I kind of answered it, but not really. I kind of did it in my way. I tried to kind of see things for what it is. And also, it's more of an eye opener realization that I'm like, oh, okay. That's what this is. That's what we're talking about here. That's what we can do to an extent to really truly understand what people are saying or doing and all that good stuff, right? And to seeing the struggles and things that they're having with something that we are trying to help them with. It's beyond just making that sell. It's about giving back to people to the point to where they trust you. You don't want to leave somebody on, right? But let's look at the question one more time. And let's see if we can go ahead and figure out what she's trying to say again. Okay. I guess I wonder why coffee bags usually don't have a rule of thumb of how much coffee beans per cup. And I think that's part of it too. A lot of times coffee roasters are, and I go through that so many times, and it's kind of hard to come back down to earth. And again, it depends on your customer, right? So if you're selling like really high end stuff, you can give suggestions on the bag, right? And you say, okay, this is a Hario V60 recipe. This is how many grams of coffee, and this is how many grams of water. Grams and milliliters they're the same measurement. I mean, I know most people say they aren't, but they are. Um, and then you're on your merry-go way, and then eventually you'll probably start doing your own recipe. And that's the thing. A lot of times, when you're dealing with like different realms of specialty coffee or people who just drink coffee in general, they have their own routine and methods and recipes. And I think that's probably part of the issue is that other type of client doesn't have an issue with things not being on the bag. They don't even care about if it has fruit notes or coffee tasting notes on it, right? But because they have their own recipe, They have their own way of going about trying to figure out that recipe, that coffee, and it's their own journey, and they want to go on that journey with that coffee for that time period. And I think that's part of the problem. I don't think it's a problem. It's it's part of the challenge because the roaster is somebody who's trying to give as much information, but you don't want to go too deep in that rabbit hole because a lot of times you're dealing with people who have a different way of going about things. And as long as you present them with a good starting point, which is the coffee, right? I think that's part of more so the deal that you're trying to figure out with people. And sometimes it's a lot easier just to say, here you go. Here's the coffee. Let me know what you figure out. And a lot of times I think here's a really crazy, funky thing about this is that as much as people talk about like graphs and charts and all that stuff, I may have to talk about that too, how I roast, my roasting philosophy and the way I go about it, and how I believe it's more consistent, or just as consistent as somebody who's looking at a graph and not really looking at what's going on, is that you're not going to hit that profile every time. You're going to get close to it, but you're still going to sell it, right? So, but for the most part, it is what it is. That's what the coffee is. And again, it goes back to your clientele. It's like, okay, who you're really dealing with. Are you dealing with somebody who is more so like a Mr. Coffee type of person to where they already have their routine too? You could have to the point where you are, even if it doesn't have information on the bag, you're just like, okay, this is what it is. This is my recipe though. This is how I go about doing things. And this is what I'm going to do in order to really understand this coffee, a bag or whatnot, right? But still, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who in the coffee chain. There's no hierarchy here. We all have our recipes, but at the end of the day, if somebody just wants a guide to get going, especially from people who are experts in this particular coffee or mix or blend, how would you go about helping me get the best guide or rule of thumb of going about trying to really understand and enjoy this coffee? So I think I kind of answered the question. It's still a problem. And all I can do is my part in order to demystify, as ChatGPT would say, or coffee aficionados, is just do my part. I can do a general rule of thumb. I could just do a rule of thumb. I'll say this is for my coffee in particular, especially for like the Brazilians or the coffees that I'm mainly going to use for like Amazon. I can provide a rule of thumb of those because those will be more consistent. But for the other ones that are like a little bit more churn and gun, we'll see, just depending on how much I get of that and all that good stuff. But yeah, so that's what we got going. That could probably be the freebie in general. I think that's something, right? I think about it a little bit more. I do have a freebie idea that I'm working on that I kind of ran away from and all that good stuff. But yeah. So yeah, we're going to keep thinking this out. But I think I answered her question, sort of. Maybe more of a can of worms, but give me a couple of months. I'll get your question answered for real. I will. I mean, I answer your question, but I'm now. I gave you the reason why, but I didn't give you the solution. So give me a couple of months to work on the solution, and I'll present that to you and everybody else because I think these will be helpful. So we're going to keep these questions coming. I think they're pretty cool. It's pretty fun to just answer some questions from viewers, listeners, and whatnot. So I think this is, let me see. I'm about to get out of this thing. Okay, good. This thing's told me that my free version recording limit is about to be done because I'm at an hour, almost 50 minutes. And this is my longest solo podcast that I've done, which is pretty cool. I knew something was there today. Sometimes it's good to not rush it or think about the topic. And I think that's more so how I work again. Just give me an outline. I got enough bandwidth to kind of keep it going, I think, especially now that I'm getting better. It's going to get better with a lot of this stuff, right? That's all I care about. Just getting better, helping out people, and going from there. So here we go. Talk to you later. Bye.